It says we're live, and then there was a Stephanie. Wow, you're really on the ball this morning, darling. How's it going? There is coffee. I am happy. All right, what is the date today? You got coffee too? Fabulous. May 8th. I am okay. I am adjusting to this idea that Dave is not going to be home until Tuesday, and trying to not regret buying my groceries so early. Feeling a little bit like chill about the weather. Decided to light a candle while I worked this morning. This is called Adventurer's Bounty by Cantrip Candles. It smells really lovely. They have like the cutest lids on their tins that look like little dungeon maps. See if I can get the camera to focus on that. Maybe not. Anyway, they're pretty cute. This one was a bakery one, which is now done. The last little bit of the wax still smells super good. They're a company out of California. Quite like their stuff. Feel a little bit guilty like shipping a candle from California, so try to not do that too often, but every now and then you just gotta do it. Yeah, the weather is definitely not ideal this morning, but I mean, we need the rain, otherwise stuff is never gonna turn green, and I need there to be more green than there is currently green, so I will take it. Yeah, totally worth it. So I want to work on creating a culture today. I have an NPC that just showed up in the solo that I'm running for Charles, and I don't know anything about the character class or the race or anything like that. I'm using race in like the D&D terms of things, and I need to know like both like the physical biological stats of this creature and also just culturally what are they about, like what are their ethnic patterns. Need to think about like their food and their clothing and any traditions that they have around like social greetings and stuff like that. So got a lot to think about in terms of this person. So I'm going to start with the physical description because that's really all I know about her right now. She is tall. She's about 7 feet tall. I think that that is average height for her people. She is very built broadly, and she's very muscular. She's kind of a gladiator body. She's got short hair. Okay. Her skin is lavender. And her hair is dark purple. She got pixie haircut. Okay. Hello to my other lurker. You can say good morning if you want to, but you are not required to. Yeah, so she's got lavender skin. She's 7 foot tall. She's broad and really muscular, short hair. Currently, she is employed working a tavern as a tap person. At the Copper Kettle. She was brought in to kind of set some of the clientele straight because they had started taking liberties with one of the other workers who is a much slighter figure. And so the owner figured by bringing in somebody who was physically as intimidating as she was, that maybe the custom would kind of chill out and not harass their servers so much. I think she's probably got some scars and maybe a tattoo or two. Yeah, that's a good point. Let's think about that for a second. She's got a scar on her bicep from a sword injury. And scarred knuckles from fighting. And she's got clan tattoos. Okay, I like that. Clan tattoos. Where do we want them? Down the sides of her neck. Over her shoulders. Along top of arms. Down over the backs of hands. See, you had the same idea as me. Good job, you. What do the tattoos represent? Tattoos represent lineage, and it will be a matriarchal lineage. Story for people, her journey in life. Okay, I like that journey, her journey in life. People's history, her people's history on one arm. The journey of her life on the other arm. Let's say the journey of her life is on the dominant hand. To show active participation. Any magical tattoos? I don't think so. I don't think she has any that are magical. I feel like that would be financially beyond her reach right now. I think in terms of like the D&D race of it all, she's part giant of some kind. I just want to look up Goliaths really quick. Bear with me here. Yeah, okay. All right, so we're going to say this is a version of Goliath. And I will work out the physical stats for this when I have more time to just sit in front of a computer. So So I need to know where she comes from. I feel like, where is my globe? That was what I was trying to avoid. All right, my crumpled up little globe. I need to make another one. So the predominant area where this is all taking place is number 12, which is right here. So I think I want her to come from somewhere in number 11 or number 16. So this is 11. This is 16. 16 puts us towards the Antarctic in the makeup of my world. Oh, I've never realized that before. That's a problem. Okay. That's an awesome globe. Yeah, it does the job, that's for sure. So let's say she's from 16. Okay, so I don't have any information on 16. I've never developed that area of the map. I don't know what that region is called or the country is called. So let's say she's from the fjords, because I drew some kind of fjordy things on there. Let's have a look at maybe we got anything that's kind of like Viking in our list. Norse. Let's look at Norse. 98. All right. All right, she's from the Saehildr Fjords in the country of Jarge. This has a Norse language / naming precedent. Just for my own notes, because sometimes I forget where I pulled those names from. And I like to try to keep them consistent. Like if I've got a naming convention for like a house or a culture or something like that, I like to know that so that I can keep them consistently named in that direction. Number 16 on globe. All right, so how did she get to Gado? How did she get to Gado? Oh yeah, and I have a name for her. Although it's a very Russian sounding name. Perhaps it's the wrong. Belechka was what it was. Yeah, that's very Russian. Let's change that. Let's call her Dagny. I like Dagny. There's a Laura. Hi, darling. How are you? Yeah, good morning so far. And we have last names, not so much. Okay. Dagny Bollidottir. Working your morning day. You make me sound like coffee. That's funny. She was shipwrecked? Okay. I like that, Stephanie. Arrived in Gado after being rescued from a shipwreck. She's now working enough to try and save up to get home. So what languages does she speak? Speaks halting common, barely passable Gadoan, fluent in Saehildr, fluent in clan trade tongue. For the Saehildr clans. Okay. Let's think a little bit about her history. How old is she? I don't want her to be too old. I don't think I want her to be older than like 33 or 35. And I don't think I want her to be younger than 23 or 25. In the 20s, 27? Okay, let's do that. She is 27. Okay, so how old do you have to be in the Saehildr Fjords to become an adult? It's a matriarchal clan, so I'm going to say you hit adulthood when you get your menses. In the Yeah, it is like 14, 16-ish, but when you think about, pre-industrial societies, like, that's when your wisdom teeth and stuff were coming in. That was absolutely marriageable ages at that point. There's also evidence that I read about in one of my anthropology classes that your menses comes on later when you're not in an industrial society. I don't know how good that information was, but it was in one of my textbooks. Um, and the argument for that is collectively, especially in recent years with the advent of birth control and stuff, there's just more hormones in our water. And that is causing issues. Again, can't vouch for that information, read about it in school stuff. I assume that it's not terrible, but I can't say one way or the other. I know that I left home at 16, so like it's possible to do. Um, so maybe you're an adult, but you don't like set up your own household at that age. Maybe that gives you like voting rights, but you don't set up your own household until you decide to. What happens? You gotta have something that happens. Okay, so you hit adulthood as a woman when you start your menses. So let's say that's 14 to 16. Gives you access to your tattoos to start getting your tattoos. Maybe the personal tattoos start then. Learning to set the household. Okay, so how about learning basic medicine? Midwifery, basic poisons, because really medicine and poison is a matter of degree. What kind of school? History and lore. Let's see, what else? You can start raising money for your own household at that age. Maybe one of the things about this culture is that you typically set up like a clan house with your best friends. And that's kind of how the structure happens instead of like it necessarily being your relatives. Um, instead of relatives. So what this does is this sets us up kind of as a generational um, uh, kinship structure. As opposed to a biological one. How do they manage money? So they trade. What do they trade for? So their environment is pretty cold. So they've got, and there's a lot of water. So we've got cold water fishing, whaling. They are a whaling people. Trapping and trading furs. Okay. Mining, maybe. Thinking a little bit like dwarves in kind of that regard. I don't have, well, I have one culture that's really extensively miners. That's the Draken. Maybe these guys are really closely aligned with Draken in that region. And they're smiths. Okay, so they're smiths. Closely aligned with the Draken. Who do the mining. And trade raw ore and finished goods for foodstuffs and finished goods from the outside world. In my world, the Draken are kind of the analog of the D&D Dragonborn. Not quite the same, but similar. And they're very reclusive. They don't like to kind of come out and about and see a lot of people. They tend to keep to themselves and only really have connections with specific, very few outsiders. So that kind of makes sense that the Saehildr are a trusted tribe for the Draken. Let's talk about the Draken in that region for a second. We need to know the name of the Draken in this region. They are the Sulvi. They are miners and mage smiths. Again, they are reclusive. They are largely self-sufficient, but they like luxury goods. Yeah, I know a lot more about the Draken just from other contexts, so I don't need to get too far into them. Okay, going back to Dagny. Dagny has been in Gado for how long? 2 years? Okay. What has she done in the last 2 years? Um, no, I want her to be there for a little bit longer than a couple months. I like 2 years, that's a good suggestion. She's been there for 2 years. She arrived as a trader. But she doesn't know the language very well. So she was having a hard time being taken seriously. Getting reestablished. Decided to prioritize learning the language. Setting up trading agreements or trying to do as her age is hard for people to trust her. Okay, so maybe she's considered a little too young to be someone who's setting up trade like that. Maybe that's true for Gado, but not true for where she's from. So she could start setting up trade agreements. Who was our house that did trade? Where are those pieces of paper? So maybe she works close to the Tanzanite house. Makes sense. They both share a matriarchal culture. And the weaponsmithing. Is she the only one in Ghetto of her kind? Yeah, I think she is. The way that she got introduced as a character, she was someone that Kaiden had never seen before. And Kaiden's been in the city for his entire life. So I think she is the only one there of her kind. So she knows Jordash. Jordash is the half-orc bartender at the Copper Kettle, which is how she got hired on there temporarily to help them with the tribulation that they're having right now. How does she know Jordash? Jordash used to be an adventurer. He's also a cleric. Cleric of who? I've never really established that. Cleric of who? Let's have a look at Pantheons. What book is Pantheons in? I think that's the DMG. Ten to 13. Okay. Okay, he is a cleric of Avandra, the goddess of change and luck. She met Jordash when she... Yeah, maybe he is the one that found her. Good call, Stephanie. Dexter, hello, darling. How are you? When he found her on the shore after the shipwreck, he healed her injuries. Mellow world building. Well, I'm glad you were having fun with Overwatch. That's exciting. We are currently working on an NPC for one of the games that I'm running and kind of developing a little bit about her culture because she's brand new to me and I don't know anything about her. So what I've got going on is so far that she's 7 feet tall, which is average height for her people. She's got a broad and muscular build that's kind of a gladiator body type. She has a pixie cut of dark purple hair and lavender skin. She's currently employed at the Copper Kettle as a server. She has a scar on her bicep from a sword injury and scarred knuckles from fighting. She has clan tattoos down the side of her neck, over her shoulders, and along the top of her arms, down to the backs of her hands. The tattoos represent her lineage and her people's history on one arm, and then the journey of her life on the other arm. She's a sub-race of Goliaths is the group, I think, in terms of how I'm going to stat her out for D&D, from the Saehildr Fjords in Bjarne. And she arrived in Gado after being rescued from a shipwreck. She's working to earn enough money to get back again. And then we were working on clan, C-L-A-N, not C-L-A-M. Although clam tattoos would be pretty freaking hilarious too. I know, like tribal lineage and history stuff. And then we were talking a little bit about how they determine adulthood for women. We haven't really talked about how they determine adulthood for men, so we should do that. And then what kind of economics the group has. And then we started talking about her again. So maybe let's just double back and determine how they talk about adulthood for men before we forget about that. Adulthood for men in the Saehildr Fjords is determined by the men have to hunt big game. Okay. I also want the women to be hunters. I don't want to like highly gender that division of labor. I kind of like understand how we come by it, but I want to resist it as much as I can because fantasy tropes. Let's kind of mash that up with a little bit of like spiritual guidance somehow, that they have to have like a successful hunt that's the result of a vision. That everybody has a vision when they hit this age, and then they have to go and orchestrate the hunt based on it. I kind of like that. Is determined by having a successful hunt based on a vision. So there's a ritual. Let's see, there's a mushroom tea. Hallucinogenic. Cannot spell today. Mushroom tea. That prompts a vision. Men must have the wisdom to decipher the vision. And then action a plan based off of it. Okay, I like that. That's kind of fun. It's working for me. So if Dagny has only been in Gado for 2 years, she was 25 when she left home. Was she married? Oh, her vision was to go to a foreign land. Okay, I like that. I like that. Dagny's vision was to set up trade in a foreign land. That's how she got shipwrecked. She was not married. Okay. Did she have any kids? I see her as not having had kids because I'm not sure if she would have left children to go and do this. No kids? Okay, not married, no kids. She's never been in a relationship. Okay. Why not? She too ambitious? Yeah, never been in a relationship. Too ambitious. And restless. Always wanted to travel. And see the world. Completely apropos of nothing, we decided that Tanzanite House was headed up by bards, didn't we? Tanzanite House, bards. Yes, okay. There we go. We have that note. What else do we need to know about Dagny? Well, we need to know Dagny's stats, because I think that's going to be a thing. So, let me see if I have a blank sheet. And we'll just roll her really quick. So we always roll stats 3d6 drop, or the lowest becomes a 6. Let me just pull 3d6 out of here. 1, 2, 3. So 6, 10, 14. Uh, 12, 15. 12, 14. Oof, that's gross. 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12, 15. One more. 16. Okay. So, what? There's a Patrick. Hello, darling. How are you? What kind of class should she be? I'm thinking some kind of fighter. Like, I kind of want her to have a gladiatorial background. Like, she has spent some time fighting in the arenas. If that's just for fun, that's just for fun. What do we think about a barbarian? I don't have any barbarian NPCs, so I've never played one. I don't anticipate like needing to play her out pretty hard, but barbarian might be fun. Yeah, a disciplined barbarian. Yeah, like I see her as being very disciplined. Like, the rage is useful, but the rage does not make her lose control necessarily, at least not during the rest of her days. So she's a barbarian. She's disciplined. She's ambitious. She's self-reliant. So she doesn't really like need an adventuring party. She may end up in one as an NPC, but she's not looking for one. She's stubborn and a little hot-headed. What are 3 faults? Uncharted territory. Hello. How are you? Welcome to the chat. Can she handle her liquor? I think she can. I think she chooses not to drink, though. I think maybe the liquor is kind of a problem. She likes to headbutt people when she's drunk. Okay, so let's put that down. Gets fighty when drunk. What are we jamming about? We are currently trying to come up with an NPC for a new racial structure in the game that I'm running for a friend of mine. She is a 7-foot tall, kind of gladiator build, pseudo Goliath. I'm kind of modeling the race off of the Goliath stat block for D&D 5e. And she is the survivor of a shipwreck that took her from her homeland and deposited her in a multicultural port city called Havalis in the country of Gado. Gado is an island nation that is kind of my analog of Hellenic Greece. Havalis is like a city-state, so most everything that's important is happening within the city. with the exception of the agriculture that's going on outside of the walls. And she is currently, her name is Dagny. She is currently trying to save up enough money to get back home. So she's been in Gado for 2 years. She's just recently started working at the inn called the Copper Kettle, which is where one of my player characters has his suite of rooms. And so he's just encountering her for the first time, and he's never seen someone that looks like her. She might be the only one of her kind in all of Gado right now. And so we're just trying to stat out her culture, like who she is and what she's doing, where she comes from, what kind of traditions and stuff she maintains, that kind of thing. So good. I'm glad you're doing good. Who hurt her growing up? That's a good question. What does she do to compensate that as a self-sabotaging behavior? That's a great question too. Okay, so let's talk about her childhood a little bit and get into the nitty-gritty of that so we better understand who she is. Is she an only child or did she have siblings? Joanne, you're lurking too. Hi, honey. I like having all of these people here. I'm excited. Okay, so her father wanted a boy. In a matriarchal clan, that's a really interesting decision. Okay, so father wanted a boy. Okay, and she's the only child, so he was super disappointed. Only child. So dad was disappointed. What if dad was widowed and she reminds him too much of her mother? And so the grief is really real for him. And she has a hard time being the reminder of that grief. Winner? Okay, cool. Maybe he was widowed during the childbirth and resents that. Okay. So dad was widowed. While mom was giving birth to Dagny. And she reminds him of her mother and his loss. So he's hard on her. She is really independent. Because she never felt like he had her back. Would support her. Or be invested in her. Okay, I like that. That's really good. Yeah, grief, resentment, and neglect, for sure. Heavy criticism. So does she criticize other people because that's what she's familiar with instead of like expressing loving words or like praise? Is she the kind of person that's like, I told you I loved you once and I don't need to say it again because I told you once? Or is she the kind of person that I don't see her being super forthright with like praise and affection if this is the template she knows? Yeah, okay. So she doesn't communicate praise and affection easily because she wasn't raised with it. Thinks criticism and suggestions for improvement show love because their guidance regardless of delivery. Okay. Why can't you be better? So she's got a real need to prove herself. And that carries over into everything she does. So she's a perfectionist. Maybe that's why she can't go home. She's determined to not go home until she can replace the boat that got smashed and bring back like the equivalent value of trade goods. So she's ashamed of having lost her boat and lost her goods. And so she can't go back until she's got that money saved up. Can't go home until she's replaced the boat and trade goods value that was lost in the shipwreck. So shame is a real lever with her. It was her mom's boat. Oh, good job. Was her mother's boat. She took it without permission. After an argument she had with her dad. How does she feel about the shipwreck? Does she feel the shipwreck is kind of a divine sign that she like disobeyed her father? Or does she see it as her mom telling her not to go home? How does she feel about the shipwreck? Dad used the boat as a surrogate for mom. Won't address it, won't admit failure. Well, she's kind of admitting it if she's like realized she needs to save up for it in order to go back home. I think punishment or fate. Yeah. That's kind of the vein I'm thinking into. Okay, those two things can be linked. So if she thinks it's some kind of punishment, she's just mentally disassociated from it and is kind of refusing to address that. She's focused more on fixing it than actually dealing with her emotions about it. Okay, I like that. Views the shipwreck as some kind of punishment for leaving, stealing the boat, disobeying her father, refuses to face her emotions about the shipwreck and the loss of the last piece of her mother. Really, like the only piece of her mother. Avoids it. Disassociates from it. Okay. Yeah, because the ship means mom is really gone. Yep. All right, so that tells us a little bit about her childhood. Let's talk about her time in Gado. So she has been in Gado for 2 years. She did not really speak the language when she got there. So let's say she started out as a pit fighter in the gladiatorial arena because you didn't need to speak the language in order to make your money there. Let's also say that that kind of was feeding her kind of self-destructive recklessness with her grief too. Fed her self-destructive grief in wake of shipwreck. What brought her out of her grief? Dagny, the spelling that I have is Norse. It is Dagny. There's no H. And I'm working off of a Norse list of names here. Her last name is Bollidottir, so daughter of Bully. So guess that's dad's name. But yeah, Dagny. She's from kind of an Icelandic sort of place. There's a lot of fjords, a lot of cold weather. They're a whaling culture. Lots of mining, or at least lots of trade with people who mine, lots of smithing. She's got some weaponsmithing background and some fighting background. We can make some other cultural assumptions. What kind of cultural assumptions do you want to make? Culture is good. Hot springs, sure. I like that. Saehildr Fjords has hot springs. And geysers, because geysers are fun. I do not have any trolls yet. So maybe there are trolls in the hills. Maybe there are like full-on fucking giants in the hills too. So that's a problem. We could put trolls in there. Trolls and giants local to the nearby mountains. Yeah, I would say fairly low fantasy. Like part of it is just I don't tend to populate with monsters until I know what kind of event that's going on. The campaign up to now, wait, I gotta talk about Gado, not Halcyon. So the campaign up to now in Gado has been fairly low fantasy. The one PC is a warlock, pact of the Blade Archfey patron. Another one is a bard, no college selected yet. Another one is a rogue, so no magic at all. Nobody's high enough level to be really messing around with too much magic yet. It's only, I think, level 2 or level 3. This setting has mages in it. Gado in particular is really, really heavy on bards. Bardic magic and the Bardic Collegium are a huge mainstay of the city. The area that Dagny comes from is in a completely different area of the globe. I can illustrate that actually because I have my glow handy. So right in here is where Gado is. Dagny is from down here in the fjords. So she's come all the way across a minor ocean into a new area that she's never been in before. So Gado, which is where the setting is that Dagny is currently located, is based on Santorini, Greece, but set in a more Hellenic kind of timeline. I'm keeping it relatively low fantasy in that the fantasy exists, but a lot of it is hidden in the world. Like you can encounter it, but you kind of have to be in the wild for it. There's kind of this balance between wilderness and civilization, where wilderness represents the more natural kinds of magic. So elementals, beast mages, stuff like that, like natural phenomenon. I'm avoiding psionics completely, and aberrations by and large, because I'm not a huge fan of them. They just don't appeal to me. They're a little too sci-fi for my tastes, so I'm tending to leave them out. Right now, the closest thing to a monstrous creature that anybody's encountered in Gado was there was a troop of troglodytes that were trying to take over a shrine. But because it's in the city, there's not a lot of conflict that's been magical or like bestial. It's largely been interpersonal because you're dealing with all this press of people. Gado is very specific in terms of like secret societies and politics and stuff like that. The other campaign, Halcyon, is got more magic. It's still fairly low magic, but there's more magic and more creatures and stuff that people are interacting with. So offer that monsters are an influential part of cultural dynamics. Anything that hurts people will leave its mark on names. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. So let's talk a bit about the monsters that Dagny grew up with, because I imagine that that's going to impact her impression of like Ghetto and civilization. Because I'm imagining she didn't come from a super high population village. Like I'd say maybe 200 people. And then a network of close clans that are also maybe 200 people, maybe maximum 500 people, because you got to be able to be fairly nomadic and live off the land. Those are the assumptions I'm making about her culture. I don't think I wrote down that they're nomadic, so mildly nomadic, in that they maybe move 2 or 3 times a year. Maybe the trolls and giants have a season. Maybe the trolls hibernate during the, or no, they come out during the winter and they hibernate during the summer because it's too hot for them. Trolls don't come out in summer. Too hot. Giants are a year-round problem. So what does she think about being in a city the size of Gado? Like, Gado is functionally a nation state. My population is probably, I don't know, between 250 and 300,000, which is a huge city for that level of tech and stuff. So what does she think about that? She goes everywhere armed, even if it's just a knife. She's overwhelmed by the size. Okay. So does she stick to only certain neighborhoods then? Yeah, I've heard people are explorers. Maybe she's gun shy about exploring though because of the shipwreck. Outer edge or poorer sections. Okay, so that kind of tracks with where she's at. Outer edge. Outer edge puts her in like the dock and harbor, which would be probably more comfortable for her too because of the proximity to water. Or poorer sections. Which reminds me of the Simon and Garfunkel song. The Boxer. The poorer quarters where the ragged people go. Outer edge or poorer sections. So dock ward. Near the water. Okay. Traditional navigation is taught by mothers in her culture. Ooh, I like that, Joe. Good job. Navigation is taught by mothers in the culture. Too hot, winter is dark. So the trolls have sunlight sensitivity. I dig that. Trolls have sunlight sensitivity. Let's say there's also an enclave of drow down where she's from. Also an enclave of drow near the Saehildr Fjords. Now, in my world, drow are not necessarily evil. I kind of have a huge problem with the only matrilineal race in D&D being represented as a bunch of vicious BDSM matriarchs. As a woman, I find that slightly offensive, and I want to know who hurt those poor men, that their only representation of matriarchy is just so fucking negative. I am holding some of that to be true, but not universally for the entire culture, because I think that's just painting with too broad a brush. And I also just struggle with alignment in the first place because I don't believe that anything is inherently good or inherently evil. So alignment is pretty suspicious to me in terms of the world. My drow are matriarchal, for sure. Except for my one group of drow, which are called the Bragandarth, which are a bunch of the men who have escaped from the abusive matriarchal groups that do still exist within the drow society and are trying to create their own male-based drow society that is based on less toxic principles. They currently exist as a nomadic culture on 5 ships that form together to make like a giant Cirque du Soleil style circus called the Island Fair. And they are in Gado currently for the Komori Festival, which lasts 10 days, and they are connected to Charles's character Kaiden, who is half drow and doesn't know who his father is. So, yes, anyway, all of that to say there are drow around. The drow are an enclave of magic. Sure, I like that. Drow are enclave of magic. Maybe Dagny's people trade with the drow because the drow can hunt the trolls in the Underdark tunnels to prevent them from terrorizing Dagny's people more. Dagny's people trade with the drow, so the drow will hunt the trolls as they hibernate in the tunnels, and so fewer will harass. What did we determine the name of her culture was? We didn't actually. The Saehildr folk in the winter. Okay, what do the drow get out of it? That's a super good question. The drow get enchanted weapons that are made between Dagny's people and the Draken. The trolls don't really hibernate, they just move underground. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Don't hibernate, just go underground. Yep, good call, Patrick. The drow. What else? Yeah, I'm thinking like enchanted weapons. Drow get enchanted weapons. Enchanted weapons are rare in my world. From Draken trade with Dagny's people. No, drow are not normally nomadic. They definitely stay in place. Drow not nomadic, except for the Island Fair. But the Island Fair are like, they're deliberately doing that to keep themselves safe because they fear retribution from the matriarchal clans that they left. They do not want to be in the position. If you keep moving, they can't catch you. Okay. What else do we know? Okay, so Dagny has been Gado for 2 years. She started out as an arena fighter for the gladiatorial games because you don't need to speak the language to make your money. It fed her self-destructive grief in the wake of the shipwreck. She goes everywhere armed, even if it's just a knife. She's overwhelmed by the size of the city, sticks to certain areas that she can get really familiar with on the outer edge or in the poorer sections. So the dockward, near water. She knows Jordash. Jordash is the half-orc bartender of the Copper Kettle. He rescued her from the shipwreck. Who else does she know in the city? Surface goods in general. Yeah, okay, for sure. Oh, they are guard an arcane power source. Okay, arcane power source. What do we want for arcane power source? That's kind of fun. I've got a lot of elemental rifts that go on in the world. Because the elementals are trying to break into the world from outside. It's the only place where their planes overlap, so they can continue on this war they've had going on between them for a long time. Drow guarding arcane power source. Okay, we'll talk about the shipwreck in a second here. Drow needs surface goods. So that's what they trade for. Okay. The Drow don't enchant the weapons. The Draken enchant the weapons. That one is pre-established for me from other world building that I've done. The Draken are kind of my analog for Dragonborn, and they are a master mage smithing group. They have the ability to create golems, and so far they're the only people in my world that can do that. And so their master smithing is golems and enchanted weapons. They're incredibly reclusive. They don't tend to sell their weapons off, which is why it would be a big deal that the Drow are getting any. And yeah, they kind of just do it for the love of the thing. All right, let's talk about this shipwreck. Shipwreck. So I'm getting some serious like Moana vibes off of Dagny. Like, I don't know if anybody else is getting that, but I kind of get this like really idealistic child in some ways that was determined to do it her way, even though she was being told there was a different way to do it. Resisted the impediments being put upon her by her father, didn't like the criticisms that were being leveled at her by her father, but also like got in way over her head and was like, oh boy. I could kind of see Mulan. I feel like Mulan's motivations were different though. I think the Lee or the filial piety was a much bigger part of Mulan's story, and I don't really feel like that's the thing that's going on with Dagny. So when Dagny took off, did she take anybody with her, or was she determined to sail this on her own and just be like, screw you all, like I'm going my way? Are the Drow savage, civilized, or post-apocalyptic survivors? I feel like they are civilized. Post-apocalyptic is a good question, and I don't know. Yeah, I think she went alone too, Stephanie. I think you're totally right. Saw a trailer for the new Mulan, and it looks interesting. The live-action Mulan? Yeah, okay. She needs a small crew. Yeah, unless she's going in like a solo outrigger style boat. And like, I don't know how you can cross an ocean, and well, I guess you can. I mean, the Polynesians did it all the time. She needs a small crew. Yeah, she would. Equal to the number of gods in Dagny's culture. Okay, I dig that. Patrick, shipwreck. Maybe someone died and that's her true guilt from the shipwreck. Okay. Maybe 3. She did take someone and they perished. Okay, so we're in agreement that she lost her crew. 5 or 7. How about we roll... Let's roll a dice to determine our number of gods. And if we don't like it, we can either roll again or try something else. D10, D12, D8. What do we think? Somebody pick a dice. Dagny +2, D12, D6. You guys are not helping me here. All right. What dice looks pretty? No, well, the orc that saved her he's already an established NPC. So I can't go changing that part of his backstory because it's interwoven with a PC's backstory already. 2d6, choose the better. Okay, I like that. Let's do that. So that's the equivalent of d12. So we got a 2 and a 4. I like the 4. 3 is a magic number. 3, okay. Actually, you know what? I can see that because like there's a lot of establishes of triune goddesses and stuff like that around the world. And it's in the middle of the 2 and the 4 that we just rolled. Okay, let's do that. So we've got Dagny plus 2 crew. And we have a note up here that there are 3 celestial beings, which we should dig into at some other point. Dagny plus 2 crew. Let's talk about this crew. Yeah, 3 splits the 2 by 4. You are not wrong. Loyal manservant. Okay. Let's say that he was in love with her and she was not interested. Because we've decided she's never been in a relationship before. What's his name? We are in the Norse names again. Askel. His name was Askel. Kaufson. And a woman friend, okay. Both are missing, presumed dead. Oh, but presumed they could show up again. I dig that. That one member would be alive. She just doesn't know. She just doesn't know. She thinks she's alone, which is why her grief is so big. Because then I can have them show up in the city too, which would be a great thing if that plays out with the PC that I think it would. Okay, woman, what is your name? Myron. Myrun accent. Like that. Katla. No accents on that. What was her relationship with Myron? Was the only person she felt affection for or from because of her relationship with her dad. Maybe Myron was a friend of her mother's. So there's kind of this intergenerational friendship going on here. Myron is chaotic, a bad influence. Maybe it was Myron's idea to take the boat and was like, your mother would want you to do this. What does surrogate mom suggest doing something like steal? Well, she's chaotic enough. I mean, anything's possible. She's a bad influence. Myron was the navigator. Yeah, because if navigation skills are taught by mothers in this culture, which we've established they are, then Dagny wouldn't have gotten that training, so she would have needed a navigator. Navigator. Okay. Was teaching Dagny navigation, old hippie, reliving glory days. Okay, so who's alive? Who's alive that Dagny doesn't know about? Is it Askill or is it Myron? Why does Myron not like Dad? Let the bones decide. Okay, we can do that. D6 divided by 2. Even or odds are Askill, evens are Myron. It is Myron. Myron is alive. Ooh, Myron was in love with Dad and Dad didn't choose her. Okay, I like that. What the hell did I decide his name was again? Bully. All right. Myron needs a handicap. Yeah, she does. Myron's not grounded in reality. She's too optimistic. She always thinks things are going to work out, which means she doesn't pre-plan for disasters. A wound, a physical wound. Okay. Physical wound. I like the idea of no foot, because that would impede her ability to swim, which would make Dagny think it's even less likely for her to survive. Okay, so Myron has no foot. Maybe a foot, but it's useless. Lost in. I like the idea of it being like gone. Because then you get like cool stuff you can do with staffs and like the physical artifactness of that. And then like you have a different relationship with disability that could be explored in the game. Or disease. Maybe it was cut off by a troll, guys. Maybe like she's one of the casualties of one of the skirmishes with the trolls. Because that kind of works a bit of our environment and ecology back into our people. Lost it to the trolls. Yeah, Dagny's totally why she can go on one last adventure. Okay, I like that. That makes way lots of sense. Dagny is the reason Myron can go on one last adventure. So Myron was an adventurer. She was a troll hunter. She was a big deal in the village. And that's why she was surprised when Bolly turned her down. So her handicap is that she's cocky and very overconfident. Hasn't met a situation she couldn't get out of. Not necessarily intact, but she couldn't get out of. And so this adventure with Dagny is her trying to prove she's still got it. So how old is Myron? We need to decide that. Dagny is 27. Myron is her dad's age. So we need to figure out how old Myron is. I feel like they probably have kids fairly young. Myron is reckless Meryl Streep. Oh my god, I love it. Yeah, so she's trying to get Dagny to be an adventurer. Um 45 or 54. I think 54 is a little too old. I think 45 is a little too young. What's the difference? The difference is 9. So let's go 4. Let's say she's 49. Myron is 49 years old. Okay, let's talk about Askell. Slave, servant, or childhood friend. Okay, so let's talk about slavery and role-playing games for a second, because I got some struggles with this, and the struggle is real. I understand that in various places and times in the course of history, slavery was a real thing that was the underpinning of the economics of many, many, many expansionist societies. I'm super uncomfortable having slavery in a modern game when we understand what an incredible social ill it is. I feel like it reinscribes values that I don't necessarily want to be reinscribing. And I am trying to be careful of that the same way that I try to be careful of my gender relationships and my like legal implications of stuff like that. I realize that it's completely anachronistic for the kind of like pseudo medieval setting that we're talking about, but at the same time it's a fantasy world, and if I want to fantasize about the world being a more egalitarian place, I'm kind of up on that. So I'm uncomfortable with the idea of him being a slave. I am comfortable with the idea of him being a refugee, like someone that has been brought into the clan as an outsider. Indentured servant, a weregild. Yeah, something like that where you have the potential to, like, buy your way out. A life debt. Okay, life debt works for me. Um, so Dagny saved his life? What did she save him from? A gray 49. Okay, agreed. I will mark gray here. I just picture her having this wonderful tangle of, like, witch-like hair and being fabulous. Okay, so Ron Weasley. What? What do you mean, Ron Weasley? Askill. Let's talk about Askill. Her family saved his family. Okay, so life debt to Dagny family. Her dad. Yeah, Myron is totally like a wonderful. Do you know who she reminds me of in personality? Have you guys ever seen the show Frankie and Grace, or Grace and Frankie, however it's called, on Netflix? In my head, she's totally Frankie. Myron is Frankie. Like, oh my god. So funny. Yeah, a little bit anyway. I gotta think about that some more because the idea of, like, 54-year-old reckless Meryl Streep is also pretty amazing. Ron Weasley, that kind of look and behavior, or Neville Longbottom. Neville Longbottom turned out to be a badass, man. I am all about that character. Team Neville forever. So he's got a life debt to Dagny's family because they saved his family from trolls, to rework our trolls. He's secretly a badass. But what? Keeps it on the down low? But he's shy. So there's a lot of lost potential. He's shy and indecisive. Isn't aware of his badassery. Okay, I like that. Isn't aware of his badassery. I can't believe that that's a word in English, but you know what? We're here. He's not cocky. But let's say he is, like, a really, really strong guy. What is going on with my pen? Oh, I see you. Come here. There we go. Not cocky, but very strong. And capable. Maybe he does come back as something supernatural. I dig that. A guardian spirit. Oh, that might be fun. Okay. Died, but came back as a guardian spirit. Does she realize that she has a guardian spirit? Like, is this something she's cognizant of? Or is it operating without her knowledge? Okay, we got a resounding no from Patrick. Clarify your no, darling. I've asked a couple of questions. Eventually, not yet. Okay. I think this is the no you're talking about, that she doesn't know. Okay. She is not aware. Okay, perfect. Dagny doesn't know he's looking out for her. She finds out about the spirit later. What kinds of things is he doing to guard her while she's in Gado? The one that's coming to mind for me is he's somehow finding ways to stop her from getting pickpocketed by thieves on the street. He doesn't know he's dead. Oh boy. That's some Sixth Sense stuff going on right there. Yep, perfection. He doesn't know he's dead. Question mark. How long can you shout somebody and not realize that you're dead though? Like, because like that takes it to kind of stalker level things, right? If he's not interacting with the world. Oh, Stephanie, I like that. And that's partly why she doesn't drink. Okay. She sees him when she's drunk. And that's partly why she doesn't drink. Death disassociation. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. She also talks to him when she's drunk. Okay, so is he kind of like a confessional for her? Which keeps him going. Okay. Cool, 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 cool. Can he be seen by other people? Because that might become relevant to my PC that's in that area. And if yes, under what conditions? Do they also have to be drunk? Do they have to be like sensing undead? How does that work? He gets more ability the more they talk, like moving things. I like that, Stephanie, that her attention is imbuing him with more power. Okay. Only the drunk transients can interact. Okay, he can be seen. But only by drunks. Okay. That's interesting because I don't know that Kaiden is ever going to get drunk. He's a really, really cautious character. Yeah. I mean, at least there's the potential there. That's interesting. Stronger on a new moon. Okay, I like that. That's no moon. Yeah, a multi-level approach I think is a good one. Agreed. Oh my goodness, you guys, we're almost at 2 hours. Look at us go today. All right. Let's talk about these 3 celestial beings for Dagny's culture before we wrap up for today. We need to know about them. Are we dealing with kind of a traditional 3 goddesses approach? Are we dealing with a 3 gods approach? Are we dealing with 1 woman, 1 man, 1 non-binary? Are we dealing with animals? Are we dealing with plants like sacred trees? I want to stay away from gemstones. We've been doing a lot of stuff with gemstones lately. So rocks, let's leave off for the chart for now. Oh, you're very welcome, Uncharted Territory. Like, this was fun, and I'm super glad you came. God of fortune, God of fidelity, and God of... I want to say God of fools. Because it's another F, and I kind of dig that. And, like, there's that adage in Christianity that God takes care of fools. Okay, Stephanie says animals and plants and sea creatures. So God of fortune, let's say, is sea creatures. Fidelity will be plants. And fools will be land creatures. Let's say sea creature is a narwhal, because I love narwhals. Let's say the plants is kind of like a pine tree, maybe, because they're really hardy. And let's say the land creature is a what? Land creature is... I've got oaks going on in a different area, so I think I want to avoid an oak for right now. Stag could be good. Wolf could also be good. I'm thinking carnivore. Bear. Bear would be good. Bear would be good. Let's do bear. Bear. We have a bear. Okay, so God of fortune. What is the name of our narwhal God of fortune? Dave's owlbear. No kidding, Stephanie, you're not wrong. Gisli, Gisli, accent on the first I, is the god of fortune. And to the sagas. Yes, absolutely to the sagas. Valley is the god of fidelity. Vali, accent on the I, is the god of fidelity. And Ulfir is the god of fools. Ulfr, accent on the U. All right. The Frolicking Bear. Oh, I love that. I love that. The Frolicking Bear. I get this like image of like the wisdom and sagesy of Winnie the Pooh. Like, have you guys ever read The Tao of Pooh or The Day of Piglet? They are fabulous books explaining some Eastern philosophies through the lens of A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh. And they are so good. Like, just, they were 2 of the most influential books that I read when I was doing my religion courses in my master's. So yeah, they're so good. The Tao of Pooh. That is just super awesome. Yay! That makes me so happy. Good job, team. This was super fun. This was super fun. Uncharted, I hope you come around more often. I don't know if, like, you can or not, but it was really fun to have you and Patrick and Stephanie and Laura all in the mix today, Joanne. Like, there's apparently 7 of us on the chat right now, which was, like, it's a high number for me. So, thank you guys for coming and hanging out and doing the thing. Like, this was really great. So, yeah, I, like, don't know if all of this will ever become relevant at the table because, like, she's an NPC who's currently working at a tavern, but I super love that that we have this much detail on her because I think it's going to be great. You'll set your notifications to fun. Okay, fabulous. Typically stream on Thursday and Friday mornings. I am Canadian Mountain Time, so I typically start at 9:30, and typically we go for an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on the day. And yeah, sometimes I paint, but other times I do this, and it's fun. You want to play her? Well, go for it. I can roll up her stats and give her to you, and you can definitely play her in Dave's campaign when we finally are allowed to stop social distancing and roll some bloody dice. You're in US Mountain Time? Nice. Nice, nice, nice. So that means you're probably around 11:30 in the morning because that's what I am. So yay. All right, friends, I'm going to sign off for now. Look for me, I guess, next week, and we'll see what else trouble shenanigans we can get into. And yeah, thank you so much for your help. This was really, really good. So, all right. Catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.